Yes, boomers are stuck in the past and they can't accept that times have changed and hard work isn't enough anymore, but one of those things that they can't accept is minimum wage needs to change. And today I want us to calculate what minimum wage actually should be if it was a perfect world. Because many people, including a lot of boomers, aren't aware that minimum wage and livable wage are actually two different things. And if that seems messed up to you, I agree. I don't think they should be two different things. So before we calculate out minimum wage, let's redefine what we think minimum wage should cover so we're all on the same page here. A lot of people argue that it's enough that the household at the end of the month should have a little bit in savings. Minimum wage should be the minimum amount of money you need to survive, not thrive, just survive on all of the bare essentials like food, rent, gas, etc. And I'll explain my reasoning on the calculations as we go as well. And for reference, here's a history of federal minimum wage. So the bottom number is the amount it actually was, and the top is the adjusted value for inflation. And you see it's actually gone down when it should both be going up in a perfect world. But our politicians haven't been adjusting it properly to follow inflation. So first we need to calculate all of these absolute bare minimum expenses out so we can then figure out how much we need to be making to cover them. No more, no less. So this is the national average rent for a single bedroom apartment. But a single bedroom apartment seems even a bit too much. We want you living in a shoebox, okay? You're getting by, you're not thriving. And we're doing these calculations for Minnesota because that's where I live. And disclaimer, Minnesota is one of the top most livable states in the country. So this is literally the best case scenario. So $1,500 for a one bedroom. But as someone who's toured a lot of apartments recently, the worst one I possibly saw was like a 300 square foot studio for $1,300. And you know we love the lowball here, so we're going with that one. Now we got utilities like water, heat, electricity, and the average utility for Minnesota is $104 a month. But since mine for my studio fluctuates between 80 and 120, we're gonna lowball and say 100. But don't forget you have to pay for parking because this is America and public transport isn't really a thing everywhere. Most parking is about $150 to $200 a month, but mine is $110, so we'll go with mine. Because you need a car to get to and from work, walking 10 miles in the snow isn't really a viable option. We've got the average car payments in America for a used car, roughly in between $500 and $800. And you know, we love rounding down here, so we'll say $600. Now you have to have car insurance. We got car insurance for 25-year-olds, that's $2,461. Divide that by 12 because you're paying every month. That's another $205. But we also need gas. I filled up my car about twice a month because I only drove to and from work. So we'll add only $100 on. Now we have to do groceries. I did a whole video explaining how 1.5 meals a day costs $20 now in the US. But we'll just go with what the national average says and says $609 a month for food. And I know people are going to argue like, well, I can do that for less. The point of this video is that you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to be sitting around clipping coupons all day just to get by. You should just be able to buy food at a grocery store. Now, I heavily debated putting health insurance on here, which would have been another like $100 to $200 a month. But I'm going to assume that if you're working a full-time job 40 hours a week, they have health insurance for you. And if not, just like pray you don't get injured. But I'll add the $20 copay for my meds each month. Then we have our internet bill every month, because yes, that's a necessity. Most jobs require internet now. But then we have our phone payment because most jobs require a cell phone, obviously. I found the average phone plan is $166, but I actually pay less than that, so we're going to go with my $130. And now here's the big question. Do we include student loans on this? And I'm going to say something kind of controversial and do sort of. Because some jobs out of college do pay minimum wage. And also in a perfect world where minimum wage is a livable wage, I think companies would do that. The student loans range from $340 to $1,000. So we're just going to say you pay $350 every month. Hopefully you went to a state school. Then we'll throw on $50 for essentials like laundry, soap, toilet paper, tampons, things you need every month. So that's your total spending every month, and we'll multiply it by 12 and just pretend you get paid monthly. So that's how much you need to get paid after taxes so far. But I also believe that everyone who works full-time 40 hours a week all year deserves to retire at some point. That is a bare minimum quality of life for me, and I think we should factor that in. Stay with me because this is where it gets a little bit guesstimate-y. So what you need to save every month kind of varies based off of what we think the annual rate of return will be, but we'll just go with the one that's in the middle. That's $833 every month. 833 times 12 gets you that every year. So we have to add that to the total. We're not done because this is what you would have to make after taxes to get by. We use ADP to figure out roughly what would equate to that after taxes paid monthly every month. Are you ready for it? It's this much money. And you know how much that is every year? Well, we multiply that by 12. Are you ready? This is how much money you need to be making before taxes every year. But we're trying to figure out how much you need to make hourly to get this. If you divide it all out, hourly minimum livable wage would roughly be $35 an hour. And this is pretty close to what other people are saying. Most people round it out around 28 or 30. And that very well may be true. I'm just a girl in her apartment. You need to remember that I'm going to make mistakes here along the way. But I do think equating in student loans and retirement has a lot to do with this number being bigger than people usually make it. And I want you to take all the information I give you, kind of like how I take information when I ask my 5-year-old niece what Finding Nemo was about. There's going to be a few mistakes here or there along the way, but overall, we're going to get the big picture that Nemo was found by his dad. Sorry for the spoiler alerts. And a lot of people keep asking me, like, what's the point to doing all this? What now? Well, education and sharing information is the first step to any change, and I'm doing my best. Other than that, I'm just a girl, okay? I don't know. I can't even pay my own bills.